And here again we see Elizabeth, his old, faithful, heavy-laden, childless, barren woman who was his wife. So he comes home, and he's met with Elizabeth. He can't talk. He does the charades thing. You're pregnant. And she's like, "Argh." So he communicates to her that she is going to be pregnant. Now, you got to remember, Elizabeth has been barren this whole time with Zechariah, right? And this was heavy on her. And this was sensitive. I mean, this was a topic that, that was deep, right? And so he comes home and he tells Elizabeth in this really, he takes this really tender spot that they have in their marriage, this really tender spot, we can't have kids and it's a burden. And he communicates to her that they are going to have kids. Now, in this moment, Elizabeth has a choice. I think she had the choice to harden her heart against her husband and to rebel against his leading. Say, no, that's not what's going to happen. I can't have kids. Don't even mess with me in this area. This is a spot that is special. This is a spot that is tender. She could have revolted and rebelled against him. She could have crushed his ability to lead. Now, wives, maybe you deal with this in a really interesting way. I mean, can you just imagine where there's this area that you protect, this area that is really special to you, and your husband comes home and he sticks his finger in it, and you're like, ow, that hurts. How do you react? If you're human, you probably want to stick your finger in his tender area, or punch him in the eye, right? Or say, hey, you can't do that. Maybe as wives, you go on the offensive and cut off the ability for your husband to lead when he gets into areas that are kind of tender. Maybe this comes in the way of a lack of willingness to trust. Maybe there's been times in your past where your husband kind of messed up, where he made bad choices and caused wounds to your heart, wounds in your relationship. What do you do there? Do you hold on to these wounds every time your husband tries to come back and to repair and to reopen this area and to touch it and maybe massage it and see if he can try better? Do you hold up his failure and say, no, remember that time? You hurt me there. You hurt me and you're not going there again. I have walled you off. Maybe in a way of defense, to keep out of those tender areas and giving your heart to your husband, maybe you treat him as if he's another one of your children and kind of have this view to him to say that I may put up in the front of the church people that you're running the family, but really, I run this family. And in that, there's some rebellion, there's some hard-heartedness, and you don't give your husband the respect that he needs to run the family, and you say, this is my show. Maybe you do that through manipulation or through maybe having moods towards them. This is a really tender area for Elizabeth. And she had every opportunity, I believe, to tell her husband no. And in fact, she probably had grounds to do it, to say, look, you didn't have faith in the Lord. If you did, you would probably be able to talk right now, but you can't talk, and I'm the one talking. And Zechariah, this is good for you. This is what you get. And shaking her finger at her husband. But Elizabeth, this godly example to us, doesn't respond in that way. Verse 24 says, and after these days, his wife Elizabeth conceived. She goes to her husband, and she sleeps with him, and she partners with him in faith. She says, husband, I believe the word of the Lord that he gave to you, and I trust you with that. And she partners with him, and she conceives. And their prayer, their burden, the really delicate part of their heart is touched. And there's healing there, and there's answers there.